First off, I want to thank Rafael Agalar for having me and arranging this very monumental day. It's kind of been in the making for over a year now, and for several reasons, it didn't work out a year ago. And June, I was supposed to be here in June, and the whole world broke out. So finally here, a third time is the charm, and I'm very grateful to the yeshiva, obviously. Rabbi Rossman, and I mean, there's a lot of Rebbeim that I'm very close to that no longer work here, but Rabbi Rossman has a very dear place in my heart. Rabbi Elsand, I mean, the list goes on. So definitely want to thank all the Rebbeim for giving me the opportunity to be where I'm at in my life. That's kind of going to be the main focus of our talk today is understanding the beauty of what you guys have, understanding the importance of the Rebbeim that you have, and kind of seeing how many years later, 10, 15 years later, I could look back and truly cherish and truly understand the amount of wealth that I received from the yeshiva and from the Rebbeim. So first off, my name is Rafael Agalar from Los Angeles, California. I learned at Aish HaTorah in 2013. I don't know where you guys were in life back then, but I definitely remember being in this auditorium, being in all the classrooms. I really gained a lot from being here, and it's an amazing place. I'm sure a lot of you guys might be in different programs and different tracks, and maybe some intermediate, some beginners program. I mainly just started when I got here in the intermediate program, and I had a from birth background, so I kind of grew up, on the path of being religious my whole life. But I made a decision when I was 23, 24 years old, after having attended several other yeshivas. I dropped everything. I dropped my work. I was working. I was making good money. This was back 2012, 2013. Left literally, $10,000, $15,000 a month. I was just making an income, and I just dropped it all. Came here. The goal was originally to come here for just the Elul Zman, kind of the Zman right now. That's why it's fitting that I'm here today at this time of the year. And I ended up staying a full year, and that year honestly changed my life. So, the topic of the class today is being a Ben Torah in the working world. And I have so much to say. I mean, obviously I want to leave time for questions, but I could talk hours and hours about how I started my business, how it was all from Min HaShamayim, from Hashem, how I got into the industry I'm in. First off, what I do for a living is I sell tickets to all the sporting events. So I'm a ticket reseller, ticket broker, whatever you want to call it. If you guys have ever been to a game or a concert, bought tickets online, you probably were buying tickets off of someone that does what I do for a living. So generally speaking, the way I got into this business and how the whole business works is kind of going to be the theme of what we talk about, and also incorporating what I learned while I was learning in the yeshiva and how I'm applying it now while I work, full time for a living. So first off, how I got into this industry of selling tickets. I was in yeshiva in 2010, Shar Yashu. I don't know if any of you guys heard of it, New York. That was after having already been to years of yeshiva in New York. So in Israel. I started learning at Reshit in Beit Shemesh. Maybe some of you guys have heard it. So I went from yeshiva to yeshiva. I ended up in Shar Yashu, and I was learning, like you guys. And I ended up seeing a Kollel guy, every day. He was on his iPad. So I used to ask him, what are you doing on your iPad? In the Beit Midrash, it's not the place to have an iPad. He's like, yeah, I sell tickets. I'm waiting on pre-sales, and I'm like, that time sensitive? You have to be on your iPad during learning hours? And he's like, yeah. So one question after another, and I kind of dug deep into kind of what he does, and a lot of what he wanted to not share with me, I ended up eventually figuring out on my own. But I ended up starting this business, basically just picking back off of the questions I asked him. And I look back and I'm like, if I wasn't in that yeshiva at that time and I met this guy, I don't know where I would be today. And the first lesson I would tell you guys is, you're here, you think, you're worrying about the future, what am I going to do for work? Maybe some of you guys do work, or you have worked, and now you're here kind of in an interim, break, so what we call it. The worries, the concerns, the doubts, I was in your shoes. I totally relate to it. From this story, just briefly, just how I kind of got into this business, I was sitting in this yeshiva in Shar Yashuv, not knowing what I would do. I thought I was going to go work for my dad in construction, and I had doubts about that, but I told myself, what? The importance of sitting and learning and growing and getting closer to Hashem and learning the Masechta, learning how to learn Gemara. Back then, I'm sure you guys are all trying to learn Gemara, getting into Gemara. It was very difficult for me. It was very difficult for me to sit down all day. My mind was racing. I was trying to date, get married. I was trying to do many things at once. And who would have thought that Hashem had in store for me that was where I had to be at that time to kind of learn this industry and get into it. So I'm obviously very grateful that I was able to pick up this industry. And kind of how I kind of grew it was after I finished yeshiva, I came back to Los Angeles, and I just started going all in. I started calling teams, different teams in different cities, started acquiring tickets, season tickets, and one thing led to another, and I was able to just gradually build a business from something I grew up, loving. I had a huge passion for sports. I don't know if any of you guys follow sports, but I was like that guy in school and in your grade that like knew every team, every sport, every player, I knew all the stats. Like, it's something I really love, and to kind of get into an industry that touches on what I loved while also being in yeshiva where I love learning, it was just like a home run. Like, everything kind of fell into place. So I kind of want to break the whole class today and just bullet points. I think when I was sitting in your shoes and I would hear someone speak, it gets a little confusing. There's stories and there's different ideas. Like, I don't want to kind of leave you guys with too much. So I think the first bullet point is, welcome. Should be seats. First bullet point would be, when you pursue something you love and you find a passion in it, whether it's learning, whether it's, your childhood hobbies, your childhood interests, and you kind of stay zoned in and you kind of stick to it. When it's tough, it's going to be tough. I had a lot of moments where this whole business was going to fall apart and it wasn't going to work. Those first 3 years when I started doing this, there was challenge after challenge after failure after failure. I probably failed hundreds of times. I know hundreds sounds like a lot, but every day I was failing. I was buying tickets, I couldn't sell them. I was buying tickets, listing them on Craigslist, getting people calling me, hey, I'll give you $3 for your tickets. I'm like, I would deal with all these text messages. Back then, I thought Craigslist was the way to sell tickets. And I was lost. And part of that had to do with, I just didn't have a mentor that taught me the business. And that's going to be the next point. But point number one is, if you're learning and you're here, go all in on that. I kind of regret the fact that when I was in Aish, and also when I was in Shayashuv and all the yeshivas I've been to, I never was all in. I never was in the moment. I never took advantage of the time because I was always thinking about what's next, or what am I missing right now? I'm not married yet, so I was struggling to kind of be in the moment because I was like worrying about dating. I was worrying about what am I going to do for business one day. And I lost that time when I was in yeshiva of just getting as much as I could while I was here and being in the moment. So number one would be, if you find something you're passionate about and if you find that you're enjoying your time here, just give it your all, because everything is going to fall into place. Like my story, everything fell into place. Number two would be, find a mentor that you can trust and that has time to kind of teach you. So what does that mean? Obviously, in your Aish HaTorah, there's plenty of people that are going to be a mentor when it comes to religious, endeavors, whether it's your learning, whether it's your growth, whether it's whatever it could be. But find that person that, when you go back, he's going to be there to answer your questions. He's going to be there to help you in the business world. A lot of people are available. Myself, there's a lot of other people that make the time, they want to help you. Obviously they can kind of sit here and answer all your questions, but having someone you could trust that is there to be available is key to being successful in business. A lot of people that make a lot of money found a mentor early on, and they just grilled that person until they were able to even retain 5% of what that guy knew. And I tried doing that, and I think I did a good job at that. I was a very curious person. As a kid, I was a kid in class in 3rd, 4th grade that always got kicked out of class because I was very curious. And teachers hated that. They hated the fact that I always asked questions and I always raised my hand. But that was a character trait that ended up leading to my success. I wasn't scared. I wasn't shy. I was curious. And that's what helped me push this guy to kind of give me the information to teach me the business. I guess point number 3 would be the challenges of when you're a working person, because again, I know you guys aren't working, let's say here in Aish HaTorah, but you're going to be moving on, you're going to be starting a business one day, you're going to get into something, whether it's you're going to have a profession, you're going to be working for a company, you're going to start your own business. There's many different ways you're going to be making a living. And what you're going to have to remember, and which is, I'm speaking to myself, 15 years later, I still need the chizuk. Obviously everyone knows what chizuk means. Is that don't lose sight of
where you came from. So what does that mean? You came from Aish HaTorah. You came from whatever yeshiva, high schools you went to, whether you guys went to Orthodox schools growing up or not. Don't lose sight of what you acquired. A lot of people that aren't successful when they go into the business working world, they lose sight of who they are really and where they came from. And they lose sight of the values that they attained. And they get so sucked and so caught up in making money. There's a lot of ways you can make money, and there's a lot of ways that you can get lost in making money. And I myself still, struggle with it. And I'm being honest. Thank God my business has done really, really well. I'm very grateful. I've been able to give a lot of tzedakah, whether it's to Aish, whether it's to other yeshivas, whether it's to Kollel that I helped open up here in Israel, which is basically why I came to Israel, to kind of visit the Kollel. I get lost sometimes in just like that chase, that rat race, that endless pursuit of making money. And I'm sure that there have been classes you've taken in Aish about kind of the ideas of Berger. I think he's still here. And there's a lot of other rebbeim that when I was here would talk about this topic, but I kind of wish that they would spend more time. And they were just someone who could really relate, you could relate to, that worked, that was in the business world, that made money, and now he's speaking. I'm sure you guys have heard of Eli Stefanski. If you haven't heard of him, he's a very, very successful entrepreneur, real estate developer. He's bought tens of thousands of units across the country and obviously in America. He moved to Israel. He started a Daf Yomi program. He's probably worth $30, $50 million. I could be wrong, could be less or more, but he's been really successful. But when he speaks to his shir, and he gives a shir every day, he always touches on his success and his failures, and he brings the topic of business, making money, and kind of combines it with Torah. And I think that that's something that you guys, hopefully today, I know we're limited on, I can't see for 5 hours, but hopefully whatever we learn today, I'll share my information at the end. You can kind of just piggyback off of this class and start developing the routine and the time to kind of focus on this topic. So what is this topic exactly? It's the topic of pursuit of money while trying to retain who you really are, right? Because the two kind of don't mesh unless you work on making it mesh. Who you really are, obviously you've learned in Aish HaTorah, you have a neshama. I mean, I don't want to sit here giving you a recap of everything you learned in Discovery, in all the essentials classes, but who you really are in the essence of who you are is someone that is seeking to get closer to Hashem. And that in itself is a real avodah. It's hard. It comes with a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of distractions, especially in the old city, whether it's in your personal life, being in Israel, or how you kind of grew up. But you're trying to form who you want to become and what kind of father, parent, husband, business owner you're going to be one day. While you're trying to form that, you're also trying to form the skills to make money, and you're going to form it, and you're going to get into business, and like I said. But what happens is, and what unfortunately happens is, a lot of people get caught up in one and they kind of forget the other, and that's kind of why I'm here today, and that's why I'm passionate about this topic. And it's very difficult to kind of comb the two and truly become someone that exemplifies both. So why is it hard? I think that's kind of, and I want to throw in some stories because I know it gets a little boring, sitting here listening to someone talk all day without throwing in some stories. So I'll throw some examples. So when I first started this business, I worked with a lot of different teams that didn't want me reselling tickets. So kind of the gist of what I do is I buy tickets, I try to resell them. Teams kind of get light of that fact that I'm reselling, and then they kind of cancel the tickets. A lot of times they cancel the tickets, you've already sold the tickets, or you're supposed to make a certain amount of money and then you lose it. So there's a lot of highs and lows and ups and downs in my business. There was one time where I bought several hundred tickets to a team for season tickets, and me and my wife went down to the stadium. We bought the tickets in person. We had to sweat and kind of run around the stadium and go into the seats and kind of checking out with the seats. And this was back in 2017. And we ended up buying a lot of tickets to the Vegas Golden Knights. So if anyone follows NHL hockey, they were the number one team that had just gone into the league. They won the championship the year before. And we ended up getting all these tickets. We went to the stadium. I'm from LA. We drove to Vegas. We were running around with a baby back then. It was our first child. We ended up getting all these tickets. I ended up coming home, after a couple months. We ended up starting to list the tickets online. We started selling them. I promise you, it was Erev Rosh Hashanah. Went into Rosh Hashanah that year, and I ended up getting an email. Basically, at the end of Rosh Hashanah, they ended up sending me an email that We found all your tickets listed for resale, and we're canceling all your tickets. And they connected all the accounts, all the different seats. And I promise you, I'm never gonna forget that feeling. It was the worst sinking feeling someone could have, because you worked so hard to get those tickets. You knew how valuable they were, because of the previous year. I had some tickets. They got to the finals that previous year, and you basically saw hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential profit just wiped away. And it actually happened on Rosh Hashanah that I got those emails, and I only saw them after. So how would you have guys reacted? You worked so hard, you went there with your wife and your little kid, you had to run around, take these seats, and you put all this effort in. You really thought that you found a gold mine, and it was just stripped away from you just because they found the tickets listed for resale. Later on, I mean, I don't want to go off topic, but later on I found out what I did wrong, and I found out how they connected my tickets and how they found them on what site I listed them on. And again, I don't want to go into too much nuance about how my business works, but it was all basically from Hashem, the fact that I was the only one that got caught. Everyone else in my industry, all my kind of competitors and colleagues that do what I do, told me that was your mistake. You did this and this. You weren't supposed to. And I'm like, oh shoot, too late now. But kind of what did I take away from that? And this is 8 years now. And I've gone through so much since then, so much highs and lows and so much wins and losses. But what I learned from that was that I put my hishtadlut in. Hishtadlut means effort. I went to the stadium, I drove to Vegas in the brutal heat, 5-hour drive each way. I ran in throughout the stadium. I was trying to pick all these seats, and I had to check out with different cards. It was a whole endeavor. It was very, very difficult. I ended up getting all those tickets to end up just seeing them taken away from me months later. And in that moment, I couldn't really understand and comprehend how that all, why did that happen? I literally was depressed probably for 3 months. I didn't want to leave the house. I was stressed. I didn't want to daven anymore. I was just starting to give up on just the idea of doing this for a living. And it really brought a lot of doubts in my mind. But years later, I could look back and say, you know what? I learned such a valuable lesson that it was meant to be that all happened. Not only so I can come around the world and speak about it, which again, I don't go around the whole world, but I come to Aish because I really appreciate what they did for me. What I learned was that you put in effort, you put in the blood, the sweat, the tears, you work your butt off to try to get something. If Hashem doesn't want it to happen, no matter how much effort you put in, it's not going to happen. I know this is a cliche. I know you guys have heard this from countless rabbis. The idea of hishtadlut and the result they don't go hand in hand. Meaning you could put in a ton of effort. You could work 12 hours a day. You could be the first one in the office, which happens to be my nature is I'm a morning person. So I get up at 5 a.m. every day, and I daven nates, and I get to my office, and in a building of 6 floors, let's just say there's 120 different offices in my building, I'm probably one of the first people in the parking lot when I get there. There's no other cars. And I'm the first one into the building, sometimes I'm the last one out of the building at 8 o'clock at night. And I sometimes think to myself, I'm putting all this effort in, I have 5 kids at home, and I'm sitting here working my butt off, when at the end of the day, it was already decided on Rosh Hashanah what I'm supposed to make. So does it really make a difference if I work 3 hours or 8, 12 hours a day? End of the day, it doesn't matter. And I just gave you a story that proves that. The fact that I drove there and I got all those tickets and I thought I found something and I was going to make all this money, and then for it to just be stripped away, and I was basically the only one that lost those tickets, none of my other competitors lost them, proves that it doesn't matter how much effort you put in. Hashem does not want you to make that money. You will not make that money, no matter how much of a gold mine you think you have, how much effort you put in, how creative and smart you were. If Hashem doesn't want it to happen, it won't happen. So that's kind of, I would say, bullet point number 3, is that the effort and result they don't go hand in hand. Again, if that doesn't make sense, I know sometimes some people need kind of re-explanation. I mean, you could put countless hours of effort in. If Hashem doesn't want the result to be what you expect it to be, it will not be that way. Point number 4, which is kind of, something that I'm really, really passionate about, is learning Torah even when you're working. The fact that someone goes ahead and works 8 hours a day is not an excuse to not learn every day. A lot of you guys might think that, okay, I'm going to start working one day, or you got to make money, you got to provide for your wife and kids. That's not an excuse now that you're yotze, you're exempt from learning every day. I would say the most important ingredient to success in business is the Torah learning you do. What does that mean? It means that when you show Hashem that you're dedicated every day at the same time. I have a charusa every single day at 3:30 p.m. no matter what, no matter if I'm in the mood, if I'm not in the mood, or if I have an important meeting, or have this pre-sale, the tickets are going on sale, it does not matter. I'll give up even who knows how much money if I have to make sure that I'm there. And I think that that's something that a lot of people lose sight of when they kind of go in the working world. They think that, okay, I gotta work, I gotta make money, it's not easy, providing for a family, I don't have to learn if it's not within the schedule or if it's within my ability with all the stress that work brings. And I'm telling you guys, it's hard. It's hard because working and making money is extremely stressful, brings a lot of anxieties. I mean, I could give you another story. I can give you countless stories of where, I'm trying to kind of put all the stories in order. There was another story where one team, let's call them this is the team, the Cleveland Indians. So if you guys follow baseball, I'm sure more people maybe follow baseball than hockey. The Cleveland Indians in 2016 went to the World Series. They played the Chicago Cubs, and I had a lot of tickets to the Cleveland Indians that year, and I was jumping for joy when they were in the World Series. They went to 7 games. Every game that happens, they make more money because there's more ticket opportunities to sell tickets. So imagine, basically I got a full 7 games in that World Series. Now going to the next year, the Cleveland Indians now are, they didn't win the World Series, but they're kind of pumping their chest. I mean, the box office, the ticket, let's call them the ticket operations department. They're the ones that kind of go to battle with. They're the ones that kind of control whether they want to have me resell or not. And that following year, basically, they kind of wiped me clean first month of the year of all my tickets. They found my tickets online, kind of the same story as the previous story. And imagine, I was making a great amount of money on those tickets because they were hot. It was a hot ticket. In Cleveland, they don't really, I don't know if anyone here is from Cleveland, but they don't really have a taste of winning. And when their team is winning, they'll pay top dollar to go see their team. So Cleveland Indians, basically a World Series team the following year, there's a lot of kind of hype. And it happens to be, it's funny, both stories I've said so far, were a team that went to the finals, and then the following year, that's kind of when I lost the tickets. It's basically the theme of how my business works. The better the team does, the more they become arrogant, the less they want people like me kind of reselling the tickets. So I lost all these tickets. I had already sold tens of thousands. I had probably tens of thousands of tickets I had already sold for the year. So I had to now go ahead and find replacement tickets, which means I had to pay 200 to 300% on what I sold the tickets for because the market had gone up a lot from when I had sold them.
You don't even get refunded when you lose the tickets?
You get refunded, but you're now on the hook on all the orders you have on customers that are waiting for their tickets. So I don't just sell my tickets one game at a time. I'll sell tickets, in May to games in July, August. But that's a good point because sometimes teams will even threaten to not refund me back my own ticket and my own money that I paid, which is what makes this whole business very stressful, which is kind of ties into what I was just saying. But bottom line was, I ended up losing probably $200,000 to $300,000 in just penalties on finding replacements, and that's a lot of money. Imagine I had just started this business only a couple years before that, and I had to lose that much money. I was like, if anything, this happened a year before the whole Vegas Golden Knights thing. I was like really stressed. I was just thinking about it day and night. It consumed me, and it really consumed me, and that is why I'm so passionate about this topic, is because I could not even learn. I couldn't even be there present for my wife or kids. Back then I had one child, and it was honestly the most painful, excruciating thing that I've ever gone through. But fast forward now, the playoffs now begin. I obviously don't have to Cleveland Indian tickets anymore, and the Cleveland Indians are playing the New York Yankees in the ALDS. So if anyone knows how baseball works, there's a divisional round, and there's the championship round, and then there's World Series. So DS is obviously the divisional round. So the New York Yankees are big underdogs to the Indians that year. Clearly the Indians had just gone to the World Series the previous year. They had a better team. They were like 3-1 favorites in the series. The series goes to Game 5, which was a miracle. The Yankees were down 2-1 in the series. They had won Game 4, and it goes to a Game 5. So this Game 5 is pivotal. If the Yankees win the series, then they move on, and now the Indians are out, and now all the worrying and all that is over. Because I thought that now that I lose all these Indians tickets, I lose out on the entire playoff and World Series run, right? If anyone kind of is following, you think that the money is made in the playoffs in my business. So if you lose tickets to a team and they make a big run in the playoffs, you just lost a lot of money. So what happened? The Yankees won that series, which was a huge upset. They came back 2-1. They won the series 3-2. They move on. They ended up playing the Houston Astros that year in the championship round. Who had a lot of tickets to the Houston Astros? Me. That was basically the team that I had the most tickets to among all my teams. And if the Astros now beat the Yankees, that means I now get 300 tickets, let's say, like, I don't remember the exact number, to a team in the World Series, which, you can make a lot of money. And what happened, then when Houston Astros beat the Yankees, go to the World Series, they win the whole World Series, I end up making a lot more than what I lost on the Indians and all those penalties, plus a lot more. And that's kind of what really was a trajectory for me to start really, becoming successful in this business, is that kind of World Series run. And why do I bring it up? Because what was that feeling 6 months prior when the Indians canceled all my accounts? I was feeling like garbage. I couldn't get up, I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything. I was depressed. And little did I know that 6 months later, what Hashem had in store for me, and it was a miracle. The fact that they ended up, Indians are huge favorites. They had to lose to the Yankees, and then the Astros had to beat the Yankees. That was the team that had all the tickets for. They ended up going to the World Series. They won the whole thing. What you can learn from that story is that if Hashem wants you to have something, you're gonna have it, and that kind of applies to not just money. It applies to everything. And sometimes we kind of lose sight of, we think that we need something, we want something, and we don't have it, we don't get it, and that kind of, it eats us up alive. Whether it's to get married and you're just not finding that way with a partner, or whether it's in business, right? And kind of on the alternate, I just want to kind of go on a tangent really quick. Some people want to be successful in Torah learning, and they want to really know how to learn, and they want to really enjoy it, and really have a sipuk, as they say. Sipuk means satisfaction, and they want to really get pleasure out of it. But what happens is that they don't want to put the effort in, and they don't want to make the sacrifice. So the way that it contradicts with what I just said with business, and when something is taken away from you, and if that's best for you, learning and acquiring Torah is different, because you got to put in the effort, and you got to really want it, and you're only going to acquire it if you actually put in the effort. Where when it comes to money, it doesn't matter how much effort you put in, it's up to Hashem, like we just saw with the whole story. So these are all really, really important points that I'm hoping you guys can take away today, is that if you want to be someone that enjoys learning and really understands how to learn, and understands God, and understands Judaism, and understands the fundamentals of everything you're learning in Aish HaTorah, you have to want it, and you have to put in the effort. And the only results of how successful you'll be in the area of Judaism and learning and Torah and growth is dependent on how much effort you put in. Versus the alternate, when it comes to money and getting married and all the countless of other things, that's out of your control. It doesn't matter how much effort you put in, it doesn't matter how much you want it. If Hashem doesn't want you to have it, you're not going to have it. So if you guys can just zone in on that point, and then the whole class is basically that I'm trying to drive home that point, is that when you go into the business world and you're working and you're trying to be successful, it doesn't matter how much time, effort, and creativity and cleverness you have, you're not going to find that you're making the money you want if Hashem doesn't want you to have it. And I know it's cliche, and like I said before, I know that you guys hear this all the time, and I don't want to bore you with bringing more and more stories, but I'm telling you from someone that has seen everything. I really have seen the highs and the lows. In my business, the highs are amazing. You get a team to make it to the World Series and an NBA Finals. I mean, I had teams that I had a lot of tickets to on both sides, meaning the NBA Finals at both teams. So I had like the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks in 2021, or the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors the following year. Like, I've had moments where I was on such a high, I didn't even know what to do myself. But what happens typically is that you quickly, and it's all from Hashem, you quickly see that after that whole high, it's a huge crash. Because what happens is that you get so used to that, like everything's working out and you're making the money and you get these tickets and then both teams make it to the finals. But then what happens when it's all over, it's gone. Now it's baseball. Like, that's usually June is kind of where the finals in the NBA and NHL happen. And once those finals are over, it's June, July, August baseball. Sales are $5-10, And I like to bring that point up too, because it kind of hits home on, we all want to make money. We all want to be really successful. We want to make millions of dollars, which hopefully everyone will give you that bracha that you will, and you will taste that success. But sometimes we have to remember is that that's not going to be the end be all in life. That making a lot of money, that's not going to bring real happiness, because it all ends up just like a roller coaster. You're going up and up and up, and then there's just that huge drop. And I'm sure you guys remember growing up. You love that drop, but it happens in business too. Is that like there's going to be such highs, you're only going to go, and it's only going to lead to the down in the end. You can't just keep going up and down. It's impossible. There's no way. It's just like the stock market. You guys know. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. It's going to go down. And sometimes the down hurts, and it hurts a lot. And it kind of humbles you, and it also kind of gives you a real perspective on life. Is not all about making money. In life, there's more to life. And I'm telling you, from someone that has seen it all, and thank God I've done well. You know, obviously, I'm always trying to do better, and I'm always trying to make more. But why am I trying to make more? Because I want to give tzedakah. I want to support organizations. I want to support kollels across the country, across Israel, across in LA, in New York. I want to give back because I truly believe in the beauty of Torah. Torah is really the only thing that'll bring you real happiness. Making money, I'm telling you, it's not a cliche that it's superficial. It's temporary. It's not. I'm telling you from someone that's seen it, that like you can make millions of dollars and then you could lose just a couple $100s on something, literally, and you won't even find the happiness in all the success. You'll just dwell on that few $100s you just lost. What does that mean? It means that the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, just wants you to focus on the small negative things in your life. Whether it's when you're in business, whether it's in your learning. You might be, use an example of when you're in yeshiva. You might really do really well in learning, but you can't understand one word or one line or one Tosfot or whatever level you guys are on. Your Yetzer Hara will just make you focus on what you're missing and what you're struggling with and what you can't attain. It's not going to let you really focus on the greatness of how far you've come. Same thing goes with business. The only difference is when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to learning how to learn, it's always it's building off each other, and you're trying to get towards a real goal, which is to be someone that lives life with real simchat chaim, real happiness, and really having real emunah and bichtaf in life. But when it comes to money, there's no real ultimate goal. So the ultimate goal is what? You make $1 million, you're going to want another $1 million. You're going to want another $1 million. There's no end. So there's no goal really, and there's no goal in sight. So when I talked about the crash basically hurt so much because you thought you were going to hit a high of getting these tickets to the team, and they made the finals, and you made all this money. You were waiting for something that was going to make you feel great. Now you saw that run. We call it a run in our industry. You saw that great run that team made, and you made all that money. And now you're just waiting for that excitement, and it's not there. And this is why, in the movie, in the celebrity, in the whole industry of Hollywood, why do you see all these, people on drugs, people committing suicide? There's no end. You hear stories every day. I just heard a story the other day. Just huge celebrities, A-list athletes on drugs, committing adultery, getting divorced, on major drugs, amphetamine. I mean, I could go, I'm sure you guys look it up after you're done. You could find a list of 100 different people in the last year that are struggling to find real happiness. It's because of this exact point. And again, I don't know if they teach you guys this in Aish HaTorah or in other yeshivas you've been to, and I'm hoping they do, but when your only goal and your only source of happiness is making money, the crash is so bad that you wish you never even got started in the pursuit of making money. What does that mean? It means obviously you're all gonna have to go work one day, you're gonna have to provide, hopefully you guys will do really well. Thank God I caught a couple breaks, and I'm sure you guys will too. But what happens is, if your only purpose and the only way you define yourself is how much money you made and how much money you're making currently, not only will you struggle with learning every day, you'll struggle with who your self-identity is. You'll just never be happy. And I honestly struggled with that for many years, and I took upon myself other hobbies. I'll give you an example. I don't want to bring it up, but I'm trying to not brag or mention things, but I weighed 265 pounds basically 13 months ago. Last August, I took upon myself a journey that I dropped everything. It didn't matter how much time I didn't work, how much time I wasn't there for my family, which obviously I was there for my family. But my point is that I said, I'm going to the gym every day, and I'm going to spend 4 hours a day on my body and on my nutrition. I got a dietitian, I got a nutritionist, I got a trainer. I invested in a doctor that kind of helped me become more self-disciplined. I went from 265 pounds to 196 pounds in the span of 7-8 months. And I don't like to brag about it, because I understand a lot of people struggle with the weight. Everyone here looks pretty fit, but a lot of people in at least in LA or my community struggle with it. And what did I do? I ended up, months after that, creating a WhatsApp group with a lot of people in my community that, you obviously could tell they struggle with their weight. And I try to give back now to them, and I try to encourage them in the group, and I try to really motivate them. And whether it's pictures of what I eat, even on the trip today, I seen the whole video where the hotel I'm staying gives us magnificent breakfast, cheesecakes, danishes, pastries. And in the video, I told everyone, this is what's available, and this is what I'm eating. And I showed I had egg whites, and I had a salad, and I had a coffee, and that's it. So what do you learn from all this? What you learn is that, I know I just jumped all over, but the fact that I was able to kind of achieve that success in my weight loss, it helped me kind of shift my focus all day long on making money. I found a different passion. And what I would tell you guys is find something that you really can connect to and really can become passionate about that isn't just business making money. Again, I know you guys are kind of premature right now. You're in yeshiva. You're not working right now. Some of you guys might be working part-time while you're here. When I was at Aish, I was trying to do this ticket thing, and I still remember I would sit outside in the Rova trying to find Wi-Fi, and back then my whole business, the whole industry I'm in, was so difficult to begin with. Like, you had to ship tickets to a customer, and it was PDF, and you had to kind of load all the tickets off the account manager for the team, and I'll lose connection sometimes sitting outside one of these restaurants at the shawarma place, and all the work I had just done would be wiped out, and I would be so upset, and I would sometimes stay up late at night because the hours were off. I tried running my business while I was here. This is 12 years ago. And it obviously was very hard working while I was here. But if you guys do work while you're here, and if you guys have something, or if you have something planned when you get back, whatever it might be, my point is find other interests that you could set your mind on. And that's why learning is great, because if you know how to learn and enjoy learning and you get that down while you're here, so now that when you go back to where you're from and you're working, you have another hobby, you have another interest, and you have something you're passionate about, which is learning. So you can actually now kind of do exactly what I'm saying. You're not thinking about making money all day. You're not just focused on your business all day, whatever you're doing for a living. You have other things you could shift your mind towards where that's going to create happiness. So me right now, I get happiness every time I don't eat a pastry, I don't eat out at Burger's Bar, I don't go out, I get happiness, real honesty. I'm talking from the bottom of my heart. I get real satisfaction when I could win another battle on that journey of, I'm not touching that. I'm getting a chicken breast for dinner tonight. That's what brings me real happiness. Not the money I'm making, not the business, not the tickets that really do well. I'll tell you an example. I'm making really, really good money on a fight that's happening this Saturday. Canelo versus Crawford. I don't know if you guys follow. Good. It's good you host. So it's a big deal. It's going to be on Netflix. It's one of the first ever they've televised and they've live streamed a couple fights. But this fight is going to be the #1 fight that's ever been streamed on Netflix. And I've done really well. We bought tickets when we first went on sale. No one knew how well it would do. It's a huge gamble when you buy tickets to these events. I usually just buy tickets to the 4 major league sports. I don't buy tickets to boxing or MMA. But I took a chance and I kind of really did well with it. But what's my point? The point is that the fact that I'm doing really well on that fight can mean nothing to me. I really don't even think about it. What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about the time I have here in Israel while I'm here. I'm trying to soak it all in. I'm trying to get the most of it. Whether it's this morning when I went to go visit this kollel, whether it's the time I spent with my rabbi that they obviously who I'm close to that's here, whether it's going tonight to, God willing, I'm trying to go to Rabbi Rossman's wedding tonight. These are things that really bring real happiness, real fulfillment, and real sense of who you are. That's who you're real in essence. The money you're making is not going to be defining who you are. When you define yourself based on how much money you're making, and that's your end be all goal in life, you're set to find that crash happening in your life. So why did I kind of get into this whole dieting and losing weight? And why did I choose that? Because that's kind of what I shifted my focus and my passion towards, and I kind of took it away from the business. Do I still struggle at times? Yeah. Are you guys going to struggle? Everyone does. That's kind of what Chazal says. Sheva yipol tzaddik kam. Meaning you're going to fall 7 times, but are you going to get up at 8th time? If you get up, then you're a warrior. You're a fighter, and that's kind of what defines a good entrepreneur. Which obviously you guys will be entrepreneurs. Hopefully, is if you continue failing, what are you going to do once you fail? Are you going to get up after? Are you going to try to kind of fight back? If I would have just gave up every time these teams took my tickets away, and I just went ahead and found another industry, I wouldn't be where I am today. And that probably could have happened many times, because I could list 30 stories. I had 30 stories listed that I was going to tell you guys, but I don't want to hammer the point too much. I mean, the fact that it happened 30 times, you just saw 2 examples of how much it hurt. It's like, imagine you have you're in a relationship, right? And I don't want to compare it to a relationship, but and a girl dumps you, right? It's a very low feeling you feel because you like the girl a lot. That's probably just 1% of the feeling you get every time a team dumps you, basically, and takes your tickets away. It's a very low feeling. You feel unwanted. You feel like they just stripped away your livelihood. And it's really honestly a feeling that you can't comprehend unless you're in my shoes. So what did I learn from this journey? These 30, 50 times this has happened. What I learned is that, like I said, you obviously just got it, but the fact that I put all the effort and all the time and all the energy into one team, and then they take my tickets away, and really I'm meant to make the money on a different team, but I actually had the tickets too. That's kind of that's really honestly the lesson of life is that you're here and you don't know why you're here, right? Some of you guys sometimes probably still think when you go to sleep at night, why am I here right now in my life? What am I doing in Aish HaTorah? Like, it could be, New York, whatever, Great Neck, LA, it could be Miami, wherever you guys are from. We're doing this, we're doing that, and that's probably where your mind and your Yetzer Hara will try to keep pushing you towards. But what did I say in the beginning? You have to realize that you have the best opportunity that you could ever have being here. And I'm not just saying that because I'm trying to make you guys feel good. I was in your shoes. 13 years ago, I was here listening to someone speak, and I missed the boat. I didn't really soak it all in. And there's so many tools that you're getting while you're here that you just don't realize. Whether it's how to be a successful father, whether it's how to be successful balancing learning and making money, whether it's understanding what your passion and interests are. When I was in Shiva, like I told you guys, I found what my passion was by being in yeshiva. So the clarity I got while I was learning only happened because I was learning. What I wouldn't have done this ticket thing if I wasn't in yeshiva. So, I want to leave some time for questions, and I could keep going on. I love what I do. Bottom line, I know it's a very challenging industry. I love what I do. I'm very grateful that Hashem led me this path. There's been many people, and I kind of want to make a disclaimer. If you guys are going to have questions about my specifics of my business, that's the one thing usually when I speak, I can't get into too much detail. I don't mind answering any other questions about what I said, but the fact that I do this for a living and I'm able to kind of travel the world and go, countless places, speak, get to know people, I'm very grateful for that. I can fly here, not have to worry about, the money that it costs to come here and go back and take off time from work. I'm very grateful for that, honestly. And if I could kind of even connect to one of you guys and help one of you guys, whether it's today or down the line, that honestly brings real fulfillment to me. And that's really the goal and what I'm trying to teach you guys is that real satisfaction, real happiness, it doesn't come from making $1 million, $2 million a year. It really doesn't. Where does it come from? It comes from how much can you affect someone else? How much can you, guide someone and see them flourish and see, whether I do that with weight loss and helping people with losing weight, whether it's helping people with, being successful in the business world and balancing all the craziness that's out there. Like, I really want to see you guys flourish, and that would bring a lot of, happiness to me. And that in itself is proof for the last 40 minutes of what I was saying, that the happiness I'm going to get is if you guys can go out there, when you do go out there, and balance learning, being a good husband, keeping a from home, being a Ben Torah, while you're juggling the craziness of making money. If you guys can do that, that would mean the world to me. And that's why making money is really the third, fifth thing on the ladder of what brings real happiness in life. And unfortunately, when I was in yeshiva, I didn't really get a rabbi that kind of hammered that home. And that's why I struggled those first couple of years. I'm hoping and I'm praying, the rabbis here spend the time to kind of touch on the subject. And I know they don't really spend enough time. And maybe they should make more time for people like myself to come and speak to you guys. Because you need to hear this, and you need to just not hear it and let it go out there to hear it. You got to review it. Hopefully you guys can kind of have this recording where you review this, and hopefully there'll be other speakers that come. There are a lot of alumni. I'm in a group with 160 different Aish HaTorah alumni from the last 12 years. So out of those 160, I'm sure there's other people that are passionate about this topic, that have done well, that want to come and give back, and hopefully they will come and they will share the wealth of wisdom they have. The wisdom, again, I'm going to end with this and I'll take some questions. The wisdom that you're acquiring here will lead to much success later on in life. And I pray that you guys can actually realize that, take that all in while you're here, prepare yourselves with the rabbis you have, the access you have. There's a lot of access here. I mean, there's countless of rabbis that have a lot of wealth. I was very close to a couple rabbis when I was here that no longer are here. I'm very grateful for them, and I always tell them. And one of them continues to collect money. He has a kollel in Philadelphia, and I try to help him all as much as I can. And that's really the sign of when you find that you made it in life. When you can now start helping the rabbis that helped you while you're here, and you can give them, not just a couple $1,000. You can give them real money. It makes a difference in their projects, in their families, in their kollels, and whatever they're doing. That shows that you value them and you're grateful to them, but you're also giving money to causes that you believe in. And that's why I was able to come to Israel and start this kollel and give what I got when I was in yeshiva to other people, and that's really what brings happiness to life. So with that, I'll take some questions. I know there's a lot of questions. He raises his hand. Thank you.
First of all, thank you for sharing all that. It was really meaningful to hear and very relevant. What age did you come to yeshiva? Would your focus on life in terms of giving it your all to yeshiva change if you were in your 30s?
Yeah, good question. So I was 24, maybe 25. Yeah, I think I was 25 when I came to Aish. I wasn't too young, I wasn't too old. Would my focus change if I was in my 30s? I would say definitely it would be a little bit harder if I was older. I was still young enough where the expectations weren't really there yet at that age, to be making a lot of money, to be already married. So the older you get, obviously there is more expectation, whether it's within or with people you're close to. But to I know kind of what you were trying to ask, I would say that it doesn't matter what your age is. If you have the fundamentals and you have why you're here and you have like a purpose for why you're here, and you're trying to acquire as much as you can to use for the rest of your life, you'll be successful in your 40s. So, hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you a question about it. I'm a little bit confused about this idea of, certainly it's not totally black and white with the ratio of the amount of effort you put in to your work not really mattering in the end, because I think it's twofold. It's one, if you're doing work that's purpose driven or that's meaningful beyond just the paycheck you're receiving, surely Hashem would look at that and be like, and want to reward you for that. But then the other thing is, even if it's not so obvious, the reward that you're getting for your effort in the moment, like you were saying, maybe something down the line, maybe you weren't supposed to get this client or this opportunity because something better was going to open up down the line. So it's not so obvious to us what's a failure and what's a success in that moment. Right. But it also, we can't just not apply any effort or apply minimal effort and expect to receive a lot of reward, right?
So yeah, good point. Obviously, I didn't really spend enough time hammering that point away. God isn't just putting you in this role and expecting you to just not work. Everyone needs to kind of put in a certain amount of effort based on whatever career they're in, whatever's normal in that industry. So whether you're a doctor, what's normal? You got to work 9 to 5, whatever it is. If you're a lawyer, whatever it might be. The tricky part is, and the more dangerous and the biggest struggles people find when it comes to understanding the effort and not as entrepreneurs and business owners, because you're not working for a salary, you're not working for an employer, you're not working in a certain certain standard industry expectations. You could work 12 hours, 15 hours a day if you're a business owner, right? So that's where I found from talking to many people over the last 5 to 10 years is that the people that struggle the most with this concept of hishtadlut, effort and results, are the people that don't just have a standard 9 to 5. Because if you do have that standard 9 to 5, then you got to work within what's normal. So what's normal if you're a dentist or a doctor? The amount of hours or the amount of patients you see, whatever it might be, you got to stick to that. But again, it starts to get a little bit more trickier when you have your own business, you have your entrepreneur, you're Amazon, you sell on Amazon. I mean, I have my brother sells on Amazon. There's billions of people out there, religious people out there that have Amazon businesses. It's endless the amount of money you can make. The more listings you have up, the more products you put up, the more connections you have overseas, you can make millions of dollars. So
it also requires a lot of effort to start that business.
Correct. So yeah, which goes kind of into how much is considered enough effort when you're starting up that business, right? So you got to understand that it doesn't matter how many connections you have or who you learned the business from or how creative you were, how smart you were, or who you found. If Hashem wants that Amazon business or that ticket business or whatever business that requires an entrepreneurship to succeed, it won't matter how much effort or time or struggle you put in the beginning, it's going to work out if Hashem wants it to. So how many hours you need to put in to kind of get your business going or to kind of be successful, that is based on how much you trust in Hashem. That kind of makes sense. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. You mentioned obviously a huge part of your talk was that money and the pursuit of wealth will lead to these crashes and ups and downs, whereas Torah is MS, it's happiness. Without it getting too personal, and I'm just going to say it very cutthroat, how come you're still doing your job? Like it's really a question of how do you balance, you know, when have you made enough money to have security for your life, your family? Or do you feel perhaps that you've been blessed with this position to be able to provide and donate to charity?
So I guess what I'm trying to understand, your question is, when did I find that it was enough that I made for myself in order to start providing and helping other people? And how, I'm trying to really
Or just, I mean, when does one realize, you know, it's enough money for...
Yeah. To start helping others.
He's asking when you're gonna stop working and learn Torah.
Yeah, that's
basically.
right. Okay, that's a very good question. I thought you were actually asking something different. So let's start with what I thought you were asking. How you know, when do you know when you made enough where you can start helping others? The answer obviously to that is, it doesn't matter how much you're making, you gotta get 10%. So you gotta help people no matter if you make $50,000 a year or $5 million a year. You gotta help people because you gotta give that 10%. But your question is, how do you know you made enough money now where you could just sit down and retire and just, you know, I actually had this talk with the rabbi that I'm very close to this morning, and I asked him the same question. And he didn't give me a clear-cut answer because a good rabbi isn't going to just tell you what to do, okay? And that's one thing I'd kind of make sure all of you guys take away with today is that if you have a rabbi that's here in Aish HaTorah that's telling you this is what you got to do and this is what you're not supposed to do, I'm hoping that, you know, I don't get into trouble, but I would stay far away from that rabbi, from rabbis like that, because I understand you need to have a rav, everyone knows, you know, but a good rabbi hears you, knows who you are, knows your tendencies, and he hears you out, and he's not going to tell you this is what you got to do. Don't go back to LA. Don't, you know, he's going to try to guide you without kind of making a decision for you. So why did I bring that up? Because when I was obviously talking to the rabbi today, I asked him the idea of retiring and when is it enough. And when it's enough, when you made enough where you can sit and just focus on learning, the true answer is that it's never enough. So you could continue working and make more and more money even if you are already good for life. The problem is that if you're supporting Torah, then you're basically doing the same, you're acquiring the same thing as if you were learning yourself. So the fact that I'm supporting Torah, people learning all day, I'm a partner in their learning, right? So in essence, I could basically say I don't have to learn because I'm getting the same zechut that they're getting. But it's a very good question. I don't have a clear-cut answer because I actually asked the question this morning. I would say a person needs to get to the point in life where they enjoy what they do, but they're able to kind of step away. Like I'm taking 2 weeks off from work, which is very hard for me to. You know, I'm in Israel. I'm not sitting here working while I'm here. I'm here on a mission to help others and gain as much spiritually as I can. It's very hard for me to take these 2 weeks off. It's a very important time of the year for me in my business. But why did I do this? Because I believe and I trust that whatever Hashem is meant to give me is going to happen, and that, kind of to answer your question, whenever you decide that you're strong enough and you have this much clarity that I could step away, I could learn 2 extra hours a day, it won't make a difference in my work. That's when you know you're ready to start cutting back and kind of quote unquote semi-retiring.
My name's Adam. I'm also from LA.
Oh, nice.
I'm just wondering, how long did you spend at Aish? What level of learning did you get to at Aish? When you left, do you feel like you've grown a bunch since then, or was it more maintenance? And yeah, I guess that's...
So to answer your first question, I spent 9 months here. And when I came here, when I came here, I joined the intermediate program. So, you know, I kind of stepped into a couple of classes in essentials. I also joined the later in the day classes that they had built for, you know, essentials program. I kind of tailor-made my schedule. I was here. There was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi Zeldman, so I liked his class at 5 o'clock every day. I joined his class, even though intermediate, I don't think they weren't even allowed to join his class. But point was that I found the topics I enjoyed the most, and I found the schedule that fit me the most. and I just went with it. So I started even paying rabbis during lunch hours, and also a night seder. I don't think the rabbis are here anymore. Oh, actually, Rabbi Label. You guys don't keep the label.
Yeah.
So I learned with him every day at lunch. I'd pay him, and this is when I had no money really, but I paid him to take away from his break, and we learned together every day at lunch. And then at night, there was a rabbi named Rabbi Wolf. I doubt he's here anymore, but I used to learn with him at night. So why did I do all this? Because I wanted to make the most of my time, and I knew that I need to get a certain amount of learning done while I was here in order to kind of get to the point where I can go to LA and maintain it in LA. So why is this year or 2 years you're here very important? It's because you're basically building the pedigree of how you're going to maintain, kind of like with dieting. Losing the weight is not so hard, maintaining is hard, but I had to build myself up to get to this point now, 13 months into this journey of losing weight, in order to now be ready for the maintenance part of it. So this Aish HaTorah experience you guys have is kind of really crucial in order for you guys to kind of get ready for the maintenance part when you go back home. So again, I hope that answers your question. Spend the time here as productively as you can, knowing what you need to focus on. Gemara was really important for me while I was here, so I set that time up with Rabbi Label and Rabbi Wolf at night, finishing 2 Masechtas. I left to the year making 2 siyums, just on break hours basically. Lunch break with one, night seder really, which was kind of optional back then, and I just took that time and learned also, and I kind of went home with 2 Masechtas that I finished. So I'll take 2 more questions and we'll go ahead.
So I actually do have a mentor, and all day his whole everything he stands by is school. He says you want to be successful, go to school, do 4 years at least, learn something, whether it's this, whether it's that, whatever it is, and then you'll be successful. So A, do you agree with that? And B, would you say anything different from what your speech was about to someone who's 19, 20 years old?
To answer your first question, I humbly would disagree with what he's kind of building and trying to implement with the whole school. You know, I went to Touro College. You know, I had started in YU, transferred off so I could kind of get more serious about my learning. I went to Touro, graduated with a Torah degree. You know, anyone with a Torah degree isn't making much money as an undergrad, especially if you didn't specialize in anything or go into any medical field, whatever. The degree meant nothing, whether I graduated from YU, Touro. The fact that I didn't pursue a more medical or more career-driven field made no difference, because thankfully I make more money than a lot of people I know that went the masters and they got their MBA, or they got whatever dental school they went for, and those guys, for where they're supposed to be in life, are doing pretty well. But thankfully I didn't kind of go that route and spend 4 more years in school and then more debt being accumulated. So you got to understand that you have to see what you're passionate about, and that's kind of why I brought the passion. If it's passionate about a certain field and that requires more schooling, then your mentor is right. But if you're passionate, like for me, it was sports. And sports in the kind of schooling world, unless you want to be a sports agent and you want to go to law school and you kind of go that route, there isn't really many opportunities to be in sports. I'm not an athlete. I can kind of go start, becoming an NFL player. So for me, my passion was sports. I found that starting my own business is kind of where it worked. But it's not clear cut for everyone, and that's kind of the short answer. And to answer your second question, which was, repeat one more time if you want.
Everything you said in your speech, would you divert anything or change anything to somebody who's 19 or 20?
Right. I would probably say no. I would say that's kind of the age where you start digesting, and you're a sponge. The younger you are, the more you can kind of mold yourself. So I would say, if anything, a lot of what I said would truly apply more to someone who's younger, because they could kind of change their trajectory and change themselves more than someone who's in their 30s. If anyone has any more questions, let me know. But if not, I'm happy I met you guys, and hopefully you guys got something out of this and were inspired, and thank you for the time.